we'll start with our young activists on the climate, who conducted the climate action rally in front of Andrew's office. I don't know the date now, but about 2-3 weeks ago. And so it's Tess and Kai, and we'll please welcome them.
I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, so thank you so much for inviting us here tonight. So my name is Tess, and I'm 17 years old. So the reason that I'm here and the reason that I'm so passionate about climate action is because I want to preserve our planet for generations to come. So every day we hear mesmerizing stories about how humanity has advanced in science and medicine and so many other avenues for the pursuit of knowledge and the pursuit of progress. But humanity often forgets that the destruction of the environment is a byproduct of this progress. And it's essential to protect the planet that has fed us, sheltered us, and given us life for millennia. The environment is just so beautiful and it's so important, yet we decide to ruin it with our own greed. And you know, that's not a world that I want to live in.
So I'm Tai. I'm Tai, I'm also 17. I'm also extremely passionate about the environment. This is because I believe that it's our home, it's our planet, and we're sharing it with so much life, plants and animals, and I believe that every single one of us, we have the ability and therefore the responsibility to take care of it. Our planet is the source of literally everything. Gives us food, water, shelter, life, and I think we need to give back just as much as she gives us. And I can't stress how much I think that we all really have this responsibility to take care of our planet, and it pains me to see the state that she's in.
Yeah. So the issue of climate change has... so the issue of climate change has really been around and it's been prominent in the media before we were born. You know, it's come into the public eye, you know, around in the 80s, and the changing of the climate is inevitable, and because, you know, that's just how Earth works. But the problem with our generation and what our generation faces is that because of human activity, we've very dramatically accelerated the change in climate to the point where the world is in grave danger. And not just the world, but humanity is in a lot of grave danger. So since we started primary school, you know, since we started getting an education, we've always been told to protect the planet. So we've been told that the environment is invaluable, it's very important, it protects us, it gives us shelter, and as global citizens, it is our duty to be able to protect the environment and conserve it in a way that we should. But things have changed since we were primary school kids. So now climate change is more prominent than ever in our society. It's at an all-time high. Things aren't looking good. But at the same time, we have hope because while things have gotten really bad, a lot of people have decided to stand up and create a social change. So because of this, we were excited to make a change and to participate in the School Strike for Climate, an international movement that calls for climate change mitigation by world governments.
This whole climate change movement, it has really, really taken off. I'm sure you've all heard of the news. It all started with just one 15-year-old girl in Sweden, Greta Thunberg, who striked off school and stood outside the Swedish Parliament House striking for immediate action on climate change, on all our environmental problems. And just her and her alone doing all of that sparked this whole global movement and this whole revolution and led to strikes all over the world. And to one in Brisbane that had over 10,000 people, which I went to, and it was so empowering to be there. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about the School Strike for Climate. It has, a lot of politicians have given it a bit of a bad name, and it has a bit of a bad rep on the media sometimes. But I think what needs to be understood is that us students, we do cherish our education. We think it's incredibly important. Knowledge, is power. That's why we're here to learn about biodiversity and all sorts. And I would gladly like to know that my future and that my home on Earth is very secure and have my only worry be my physics exam next week. But the case is, I don't feel that it's secure, and I don't trust the people that are supposed to be taking care of us people and our planet. I don't think that they have the right things in mind. And the fact that that's not happening makes me feel like it's led us to having to sacrifice our education and led us to have to take a stand and say, no, this needs to be dealt with now and we need to be heard. And it bamboozles me that like kids and students, we have to push so hard to just be heard and just for our message to be listened to. And still every strike has been broadcasted with names of, oh, kids are playing hooky, or they should stay in school, when really it's that message that climate change needs to be dealt with and our environment needs to be savoured and conserved. And we need the conversation to stop being, oh, it's not real, or oh, it's natural. The conversation needs to be, what can we do right now to ensure a smooth transition for a safe future?
So while we're really excited to make a stand against climate change, at the same time we're also really sad, we're horrified, and we're resigned that we have to take the measures that we do. The thing is, we are compelled to call for climate action that should have been implemented decades ago. At the moment, we are so close to destroying our planet. We're so close to destroying our home irreversibly and completely. At the moment, the UN, the World Health Organization, and so many other credible international sources have agreed and have warned the public that if we don't do something now, immediately and significantly, we are going to have a climate catastrophe that will be irreversible in 11 years. And that's a fact. So many people have said that Australia as a nation, it only makes up 1.3% of our global emissions. So, so why should we bother, Because there's a lot of other nations that they should have the more aggressive climate policies. But the thing is that when I look around this nation and I look around outside, I see so many wildlife and flora that are incredibly unique. And they're seen nowhere else on this planet, Our ecosystem is incredibly important. And as an Australian, I feel as though I am morally obliged to make sure that our unique beauty that I see around me can be preserved for future generations. Unfortunately, we've seen how the media often gaslights young people into thinking that climate change really isn't our problem, that we should be in school rather than in politics. But, our own Prime Minister, sadly, Scott Morrison, he has condemned our actions many times, and our own schools have taken everything in their power to make sure that we're not able to demonstrate, we're not able to push a political agenda at school, and that we're not able to talk about these things. We believe education is very important. It's one of the most important things that you can have, and that's why it's one of our universal human rights. But when the planet is in danger, and our own government, who are supposed to represent us, refuses to address this problem, school takes a back seat. Because if we don't use our voices, there won't be a planet left to go to school on. That's right. Yes. In essence, this isn't a political matter. This is a moral matter, this is an ethical matter, and this is a matter that concerns every single organism on this planet, because it's important to remember that there is no planet B.
We are both extremely passionate about the planet and conserving it. Extremely. You can see we're both extremely passionate. I first started. I went to the school strike march that had like thousands and thousands of people, and it was really empowering having everyone standing there with their recycled banners, chanting together, and you just really felt like you were being heard and the message was getting there, and this was like a really beautiful, universal thing that everyone was fighting for. And then I began volunteering for the AYCC, which is the Australian Youth Climate Coalition, and I started doing indirect action, some chalking, some emailing, calling MP offices, trying to organise meetings, talking to people, mostly just having conversations like these with people and getting others to realise that they can also stand up for anything that they believe in. And it's great, and it's really, like, we really believe in it, we want to do everything that we can, but sometimes it does come with a feeling of helplessness when, you know, MPs don't respond to you, or you get into more arguments than conversations, and it starts to feel really helpless, like, and you know, you get all these labels of, oh, the radical left, or the naive youth, or something. And it does feel quite helpless, but I just wanted to, a bit of a sidetrack story, but I spent all of the election day for about 9 hours straight handing out little scorecards in New Farm outside their election booth. And they were non-partisan, they were just a little table that was a comparison of the different parties' climate policies, just so people could take in and have a look. And it's just one policy of many that you've got to consider when you're you know, deciding who's going to represent you for your candidate. And you know, a lot of people, they walk in and they take whatever you're handing to them very reluctantly, and they walk in because all they want to do is vote and get it out of the way. I understand the frustration, but it was really, really heartwarming. On the way out, a lot of people, they stopped at me, they handed it back saying, oh, you can reuse this, and a lot of them said, oh, that was really helpful, or that was really interesting, or this was actually like, a lot of people came back and they just said that they really appreciated that information that I gave them, or they thought that really resonated with them, and that just gave me a little bit of power of, like, it really does make a difference. And I think that's the way to go, just by having the conversations, by talking to people individually, locally, who are with you, and really getting that message out there and just seeing it. I think that, I don't know, that really inspired me and really helped me to keep going.
Yeah, so my first interaction with the AYCC was a few months ago, when Ty brought me along to one of the protests in Brisbane, when Scott Morrison, he went into the city for a business lunch for the election. So he was talking to a lot of small businesses about if they voted for Liberal, how that would benefit them, things like that. And I immediately found it inspiring as soon as I walked there and I saw the protesters, of just how wholeheartedly and selflessly that these people would give up all this time to protest in a way that a lot of people wouldn't even notice, just to make sure that people would understand and create awareness about a very, very important issue. They just, not only did they have a lot of support, but the thing is that they had to endure a lot of criticism and a lot of abuse by people who didn't believe in the same things that they did. And that was really sad to see, but it also was quite awe-inspiring to just to see this unity within people about climate change and how we need to stop it immediately, or things are not going to get very good. So personally, I always cared about the planet, but I never knew what I could do to make sure, I never knew what my part was in it. So, you know, I was a kid, I was a student, I have assignments and exams to do, and I have to worry about my next netball game. So I felt really helpless because I didn't know what I was supposed to do. And we're often told as we're growing up that because we're dependent on our parents, we shouldn't have a voice yet. We have to wait up, we have to grow up. And something that I've definitely learned through these experiences is that as young people, we do have independence in our thoughts. We are individuals, and our voices should be heard. Because in a couple of years, I'll be able to vote. You know, so I think it's really important that we know now, and that no longer are teenagers are called naive and lazy and careless, and they don't care about anything. Because the thing is that we do care. We care a lot about these things, but we're never given a medium to talk about them. So as we continue to research and educate ourselves about climate change and its effects, we realised that our own local area was being negatively impacted by climate change. So, for example, as you mentioned before, the Toondah Harbour and all of the really negative effects that have come from climate change and of that project specifically, and how it's really going to destroy local ecosystems and the marine environment, and that it isn't supported by a lot of people. So Andrew Lanning, who has been elected our member for Australian Parliament now for the 6th term, is supposed to represent us, but we feel as though he could do a lot more for climate action. Yeah, I think we can all agree on that. So, on the 3rd of May, a couple weeks ago, Ty and I organised a demonstration in front of Andrew Lanning's office with students and some members of the public. We created a peaceful discussion about climate change in our local area and encouraged education, and we believe that it was quite a success. We also presented hundreds of signatures on a poster petition that showed that even though the youth may seem careless and they may seem naive, we really do care about climate change and we really do care about the environment.
So there we go. So the LNP, they've won the election, and I think now it's more important than ever to understand their climate policies and to keep demanding for more. It's all on their website, and it's full of all these projects and funds with all these nice big names, but when you really read what they're about, they're really the bare minimum, and they're not touching on any of the things that really make a difference. Just looking at their emission policies, not even all their other policies about the effects on the environment. They're targeting farmers, small businesses, local communities and Indigenous communities. And these are the communities that are giving the least emissions. In fact, these are the communities that are being affected the most negatively through climate change, and they're the ones who have to deal with all the pressure of having to fix the problem. And a lot of money is being put into the symptoms of climate change, which is important. You know, people do need to recover, farmers that are having to deal with droughts or floods that are happening more and more often with climate change. But it's not hitting the core and the cause of all of this. And I think that's where we want to sort of strike next. We want to keep having these conversations. We want to keep learning more about everything that's happening and affecting our local community. And we want to do as much as we can. And that's where it starts here with conversations like these, and that's why we're here, and we really thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks.